So we will call the Water and Sewer Committee meeting to order, and the sole task tonight is to finalize the recommendations for tomorrow night. And I understand that Paul and Jennifer have been crunching more numbers today.
Unfortunately.
Well, yeah, more Jennifer than myself.
Okay, so
I was on a tractor.
Jennifer, if you can email me what you're looking at.
Yeah,
Or have you already?
hopefully I can. No, because I hadn't remembered that we were going to be right into this.
So actually, if you could email it to city.manager@newportvermont.org, and I can put it right up on the screen.
I didn't say that Wi-Fi is available.
Actually, yeah, if you could, because it's newer than the one you sent me, right?
At this point, I'm going to have to, let me just talk and somebody can take over and I will explain what happened.
Yeah.
Is I spoke to a friend of mine this morning who is a resident of the city of Newport and tried to explain that how the rates were explained to her was incorrect, which was explained to her by downstairs. And it finally remembered that I had a spreadsheet, which I have a copy of that I just gave to
That's
Paul.
what this is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is comparing basically what the cost per gallon is based on your usage. And what it does is it runs from, if you're super low usage of 1,000 gallons, you're technically paying, 17 cents per 1,000. If you're at 13.5, you're paying 2 cents per gallon, 2.12. And everybody after that rate of 13.5 is paying 2.12 cents per gallon. 2.12, yeah, 2 cents. 2 cents, a little under 2 cents. It'd be better if we copied that for some people and we can give it to the council.
Yeah.
That was just showing what the rates were for, the rates are level funded for anything over 13.5. When I did that, I suddenly realized that it didn't tie to our current spreadsheet, which made me figure out what there had to be a problem, which is when I, in a panic, emailed Paul. And at this point, I still have the problem. I keep on putting in the right code on this. Oh, except it's downstairs. Let's go upstairs to see if I can get,
Oh, to connect.
yeah. Is it upstairs 24 or upstairs 5Gs?
Upstairs 24, right? Yeah.
Okay. So, anyway, what that did was point out that we had an error in what we were doing, and it meant that the sewer rates were going to have to get up to the level we were expecting them to be at, would have to go up from
23.
23 to 27
Yeah.
cents per gallon. So we floated those
Percent.
percent.
Yeah.
We floated those very, very quickly, and yes, I had the whole thing of half an hour ago, I lost one of my spreadsheets that just off of my computer. So anyway, this is just to say that we ended up, we're still sort of negotiating what the rates are, because what happened was, and I think you can see on that particular sheet, when they did the rate increase, as I said last time, they ended up, I'll let you look at that because I know what it is. They ended up increasing in the sewer anything that was not metered by 26%. Unfortunately, that meant that anybody paying below 13,500 gallons was paying a more extreme high price than they should have. Okay, we screwed a whole lot of people in that rate increase. But it did not go up the, whatever it was, 8% the metered rate did. The per gallon, 1,000 gallon rate did. The flat fee remained across the board, which meant as opposed to paying your base rate being based on 13,500, it was based on 15,000 something or other. So effectively what happened is there's a whole group of people who paid more than they should have in there. And when Paul flowed the sheets, he picked up an old sheet that had the wrong increase. And that ended up throwing us out
Yeah.
because it affected every single user in the
Yeah.
city because we were using it as a basis going forward.
Yeah.
So that's it, but also for those people, and I'm surprised, I'm sorry John Ward isn't here. For those who claim that, you know, people, as I say, the only people who get screwed are the people who are the low user in this particular case. So that was what we discovered, which ended up changing all of what we had on sewer. And water remains the same, but sewer does not. So that's the long story, and I sent all the,
Yeah, I've got that spreadsheet.
he's got
I
a,
have not updated, I've checked half the formulas, I haven't checked the rest.
Okay.
And I have not updated the, the numbers on the proposal
okay.
yet.
And I've got some of those, so right now we're sort of stodging it. What we really need, and it's sort of unfortunate, is that we have always sort of, Paul and I have worked together on this, and because we understand what the two of us are talking about, we've been double checking ourselves to some extent, but because we've been spending so much time doing our own things, we need another set of eyes, which we agreed we are going to force poor Patrick into looking at this, because he also managed to create a spreadsheet, so he knows how to work with these numbers. To just make sure we haven't by mistake built in some other potential error. But I will compliment my friend who I argued with today to get me to see the light. So otherwise we would be at least $30,000 short, if not more. And I'm thinking that there might be another error, but I'm hoping not.
So in terms of the process between now, I hit the wrong button. Never multitask.
That's why I lost the whole spreadsheet, yes.
Hold the phone. I know no one else is here, but it's taking notes for us, so.
Okay. We'll wait for it. I'll see if,
So Jennifer, can I just ask this question, because something you just said always puts me into the weeds, and I don't get it.
okay,
Okay, my brain still hasn't clicked for the whole thing. So my husband and I pay about $64. We're paying that low rate.
Yeah.
That's $64.94.
mhm.
But he didn't have any copies of the past bills, which surprised me. Number one, does our actual usage show up since we're on a meter,
Yeah.
on the bill?
What happens is, and if you look at the sheet, if you say use, if you're super low, Claire's probably not on here, you use, 30 gallons a day, which is, if that's the right thing. So 27,000 gallons. You would pay the base charge, which is projected to go to $64.94, plus $88. You can tell me, I have been dealing with large decimal places. $8.88 as your use fee. So what it is, and this is where the wording is wrong. We have that the fixed base is not a fixed base. There is a minimum, and Paul corrected this, there's a minimum connection fee.
Right.
And that is 64, or will be $64.94. For that, you don't have to pay any of the higher rate of basically the $4.81, which is what is assigned for the fixed costs of running the plant, the debt service, etc. Do you understand that? Okay.
I guess I don't, because I just know he went back and looked at the last 2 payments he made, and they were about $62, $63, $64.
So you're using about the same amount of water every time?
Right,
Right.
yeah. And so I'm trying to figure out what part of that, at what point, is it over 13.5 that people start paying per 100?
And if you don't mind, this was when I was wearing it.
Yeah, it's okay, I mean, I just.
Okay, that is your base rate, so that's
Yeah.
that figure. That's what's wrong with that sheet.
All right, and then, yeah,
And then that's your use,
okay.
okay? And it's the amount of usage up here to the usage down there.
So I really need to go on the.
I think that sheet has fault in it. No, that's, I'm surprised, yeah, it has to be. Because we aren't,
We had figures yesterday for the percentage increase in water and in sewage. Like one was 36, one was 28, something like that.
Yeah.
Do you have those numbers now as you make this
So-
change?
Yes, so water stayed the same at 36, and with this correction, sewer will be going from 23% to 27%.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
So, Jennifer,
yeah.
I get the base being 64.18. I mean, it's only 80 cents difference, but I don't know where.
That's, yeah, I know, it's part of what the potential problem is.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I think what it was, I think somebody read a number wrong. The base charge for water last increase
Yeah.
should have been $47.19. Sorry, it should have been $47.79, and it was $47.19. I think they read a 7 as a 1. They put the lower figure in, but the basis that was created and what the rates
Right.
are is the base rate times 13.5
Yeah.
should give you the
All your fixed costs.
your connection fee.
All right, so it was passed at 47, what now? 47.79?
It's written in the ordinance as 47.19. It technically, to make it where it gives you 13,500
Okay,
gallons.
so that's
It
the,
should be 47.79, a 60-cent increase.
okay,
And that's what threw that off.
okay.
And I have to admit, at one point, I missed that because I probably
So
could
then I
use
will
the
keep the
glasses.
ordinance price on my spreadsheet then?
Yeah.
Okay, because that's just the base cost, so.
Yeah, and when we first ran these figures, we just took what was the base cost that we had and did it at across the board percentage.
How are you doing?
And,
Welcome.
yeah, you're gonna have to bring a chair or something.
Sorry, I'm late.
It's okay, the chairs are over
Take
there.
this one. Oh, you've got one now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
yeah.
was just trying to make sure you didn't end up in the seat.
Is it easier for me to move, so?
If he does, I think there's one more chair, right?
Yeah, we're good. We're
Okay.
good.
No, because when Jennifer tells him what he's gotta do, he's gonna try to hit her, so. I'll play nice.
He loves playing with numbers, I'm sure, so. Anyway, part of this is the faults that have occurred over the years of increases. And it's thrown everything out of whack. And that's, it threw the sewer mainly out of whack. That's the 60-cent variable in the fixed base cost is the only problem we have in that one. And this isn't easy if you don't understand what the principle behind it was. And clearly nobody did, and I have to admit, I didn't pay attention to the rate increase. It
The
was,
most recent rate increase,
yeah, that was the one that really did us in, was the last one that came through,
November.
November. Took effect in November, yeah. Yeah.
So this is as fair as we can get before we make major changes in the ensuing months.
Yeah.
But this is as fair and as accurate as we can get.
This is what we're aiming for.
Yeah.
And I think it's easier for the general people to have it and have the bill structured the same. You can see what it looks like. From there, we can do increases on there, hopefully get more meters in, do a deep dive of getting that information as, you know, the per gallon use. It looks like, you know, a lot of the residents, and Paul and I were briefly talking about this again today, we have to do hardship cases.
Yeah.
We have to do something, and is it gonna be lowering the minimum? If we project lowering the minimum, we're going to have, my feeling is some very good firm figures, because that's going to affect all of the rates going through.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same,
Sorry,
but
I didn't quite track. When lowering the minimum usage,
lowering the minimum usage,
from
Right.
13.5 to something
Basically
below
lowering the
that.
base fee.
yeah.
Yeah.
And do we in lowering the base fee, because the problem is, I was trying to think, how do you explain it? It's like buying an office gift. There are 10 people in the office, you have a $200 gift, but only 3 people or 4 people contribute. You suddenly, somebody has to, you can't contribute, you thought the $20 because the other people haven't. So this is what's happening here, that because you're so low, you're contributing more just by default. You're saving overall. You're saving from having being non-metered, but you're paying higher because it's a smaller quantity.
Okay, so can I just ask a few questions, because I know I'm going to have to explain this to people, and I'm not sure I can yet.
Yeah, it's a little difficult.
And I may not, I don't suspect that I'll be able to do so at the end of this conversation either, but can you help me understand the relationship between what we're going to do, what we're going to propose this week, and the rate setting that went on in November and the rate setting that went on May a year ago? Are we going back to May for any part of this calculation, or is it only going back to November?
Tweaking the November adjustment.
We're only tweaking the November.
Yeah.
Making it more egalitarian.
And so can you describe to me in appropriately languaged terms for someone who doesn't really understand it, what are we doing at the November moment?
Can I try to explain that?
Yes, go right
I'd love to hear
ahead.
Because I had to understand how they explained it first.
Yes, please.
Because I didn't come up with this myself. So in November, they increased by 8 and 28.6. 28.6. So what Jennifer and Paul
By
did,
8 and 26
8 for metered and 26 for non-metered was the increase.
on the sewer side.
Yeah,
Correct.
Yes, yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you're right, sorry. So what they have devised is we scratch that 26%, start both of them as if they were only 8% increase, and then, so we're kind of backpedaling, and then the 36 and 23% apply on top of the 8 that was set.
Correct.
Got it.
Yep.
So get rid of that
Disparity first.
disparity,
Yeah.
yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And when we first did this, we did not realize that they had managed to do the base rate, the connection fee, wrong. Which is correct, because what the proposal was 28% on non-metered. And technically, the connection fee is not a meter fee, but it's based on what the meter fee was, and that's what threw most of this stuff off.
Right.
You know, it was something less than $20 more, but when you realize that that's times 800 users, I think, that does add up.
At some point, not between now and Wednesday, but between now and when people get this bill, I'm gonna beg you all to help me come up with a simple diagram that describes that, to help people who don't understand and who are frustrated at the rate increase that took place last fall,
To begin with.
to begin with, right? To help them understand exactly what's taking place here.
And
Yeah.
they'll also see it depending on what, on at least the sewer side, what category they were in. some people are gonna go up the full percentage. And some people are not gonna go up the full percentage because they already are paying based on a 28%. So you're backing 20% out and then adding,
That's exactly the part of the flow chart I think we want people to understand.
Yeah.
Yes, so,
because we had to bring it back to sort of fair. We could have kept it unfair, but it just seemed unfair to keep it unfair.
as it were.
Yeah, yeah.
So let me just say this, so you're starting at 26, but you're backing out, you're going down to really what?
8.
To just an 8%
Across the
November.
board,
across the board in November.
yes.
And then the rate will be figured on that,
Yeah.
the base rate will
I-
be figured on that.
All of the rates are gonna be figured
Figured on that.
on what the percentage increase was. And I think sewer 8% or something? I
It
think
was.
one was 7 and one was
Yeah.
8.
Yeah.
So what it was is going back and getting rid of the 28%
Right.
that was voted by the council and bringing everybody's November bill, or those figures, those November figures, back to a 8% for, straight across the
So
board in sewer.
back to May plus 8% basically.
Yes.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
then the new increases are based on starting with May plus 8%.
Yep.
As opposed to May plus what was
8% plus
actually achieved in
20.
November.
Yeah,
Yep.
Well, could
So
you
I,
think?
I just want to state that I don't think the people who got hit with 1/4 of a 26% increase, 2/4 of a 26% increase are going to see that much of an increase if we back it down to 8 and then bump it by 23. So it's not going to be a marked increase
right,
Right. Because
overall.
They've already been.
They've
paid.
already
They've already
Right.
absorbed
Yeah.
much
yeah,
of it.
yeah.
Can I make a suggestion, because remember me, I'm the one who's very concrete, and so sometimes it helps me, and it might help other people, to sort of give them an example. I mean, so a non-metered person might want an example of what their bill used to look like if they used a such and such amount of water, and now what it will look like if they use the same amount. A metered person,
Yeah.
you know, taking a typical metered person, what their bill looked like then, and what their bill will look like now, and then sort of explaining how that happened would be really concrete. But then each one of them would know, and they'd say, "Oh, well, that looks fair," you know, and that would be good. But that's just my opinion.
I agree with you. I don't think there's any diagrammatic way to represent all
This
these
is a better way to do
changes
it.
that have gone
Yeah.
on, because the structure itself is ugly to begin with.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was starting to build that, and in this particular sheet that I just handed out, I was going to show what the increases were.
Yeah, but that's for like one person personally, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
like Carl's
Which is
bill.
easy enough to do.
Yeah, so it makes me wonder, it actually, frankly, I think will help the council, right? Who also
Yeah.
is gonna be mystified by a lot of this, right?
Yeah.
So it might be helpful to see if we could come up with, I don't know what we need, 2 or 3 examples.
Yeah.
And actually, go downstairs, pull a couple of examples, white out
Yeah.
the names and the addresses on them, and just say, here's an example of what it looks like if you were non-metered since May of last year, right? This is what happened to you, and this is what will happen next.
And we would have had that, and Carl will attest to the fact that I was saying, but why isn't the city clerk's office open? And he pointed out it was 5, and they closed at 4:30, because I was thinking it was 4.
Right.
So,
So we could probably pull that off by Wednesday night,
oh yeah,
right?
there's not a problem, I just did not get into it.
I think that's a great idea.
So, I'm sorry, so the next part of my question was, you mentioned earlier that there was a 60-cent disparity
Yeah,
in what should have been charged and what was actually charged.
yeah,
And
But that was just on the base.
It was for everybody,
that was on,
right?
and that was on the base.
Right.
So,
That doesn't add up to a lot.
yeah.
okay.
So
Alright.
basically, if you had a meter, you got slightly undercharged
Okay,
on water, 60 cents, and you got overcharged on sewer, which would be based totally on usage, so we can't tell you how much.
okay. Okay.
And it might also be nice for us to know that somebody that's not or residential is getting a bit slammed. So if you took like a big business, for instance, and you
Yeah.
sort of showed what happened to it before and after, it might be nice. Oh, and I think, oh, well, I only pay, $200 and that poor business is paying X.
What you have to realize is one of the things I did was check the top 3 users, and they have significantly dropped off. Only one is, well, 2 have significantly dropped off, one majorly, which we already know of the prison. The hospital dropped off too.
You're
Columbia,
just saying their usage
their
dropped.
usage dropped, so their bills dropped.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would just be interesting to see how much
Yeah.
does a big business
But-
pay for water
yeah.
here.
It would, but I think I would want to do some careful thinking about whether or not to present those numbers, because it's not possible
To be
to
honest,
make those anonymous numbers.
it's
Right.
So I'm-
on here somewhat. All you have to do is look at the lower line. And.
Yeah, you can see the full, what
Yeah.
happens if you use 350,000.
Okay.
And the original sheet had the figures, which I did get rid of, which were over 1 million gallons, which we do have 2 users that do that. So their bills are up.
So when this comes up with council
Yeah.
Wednesday night, we could refer to that in a very
Yeah.
general way and say, well, here's an example of how that works.
Yeah.
That feels acceptable.
And, there are certain things that turned up when I was doing these things. I looked, and it's Newport Healthcare, which is, as far as I know, the old nursing home. They're closed, right?
Right, yes.
Somebody has to be
Nursing home
using it or
is
they
closed.
will order.
Jennifer did this one.
They're using the building.
Yeah, the building's
Yeah.
got occupants in it, right? It's not,
Okay.
it's not the same business it was before.
Yeah.
There's only like one person in there?
It's,
Storage unit, I think.
okay. It's
Okay,
sort of
hold
interesting.
on. I wanna rein it in. Let's figure out who's talking.
Yeah, there's too many conversations going, I can't hear anyone.
Okay, well, I think I'm through, hopefully.
I know Claire's got a question, and then I have some process questions.
Mine is simple, I think, because I've lost track of. When are these gonna go into effect so that these numbers are gonna show up on the bill I get when?
They will be on the bill for the first quarter of the new fiscal year, which will be due,
August.
well, what would it be?
It'll be billed in August and due September
Due-
15th.
There we go.
September 15th.
Which is why this pressure that we've been under
Yeah.
to make these decisions by the 1st of May.
It has to be done a full quarter in
I
advance.
I knew you were heading for a May
Yeah.
Yeah,
deadline, but.
that's why.
Okay.
So you've got a bill that's gonna be coming shortly, which is on the old rates, and the next one will be on the old rates, I think.
No,
Yeah, The bill that's coming out immediately after May 1st will be on the current rates.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
all of
Yeah.
what we're doing now and recommending Wednesday will first appear on the bill issued in August due
Yeah.
September 15th, which covers May, June, and July.
Yeah,
Okay, so just because
guess that's-
I know I got lost, you probably want to make sure people understand that.
We'll keep trying.
Because their bill is they're gonna
It will be,
quickly get a bill. and
that's
it's
right.
like, oh,
You will
well,
want to
mine-
clarify that. That's a
It's
good point.
billed in arrears, so the bills that come out in a couple of weeks are for the prior quarter that ends Wednesday.
Thank you for your patience.
Okay, so can I ask some process questions then? So I'm just thinking about getting us from here to Wednesday night. So it sounds like the number crunching team, which at the moment is Jennifer, Paul, and maybe if they can sweet talk Patrick into it, Patrick laying eyes on their numbers one more time. In order for me to put together a packet to put on the website for people who want to look at this stuff in advance, I was going to do it tonight, but it sounds like it needs to be tomorrow at some point. Is that right?
I think so, and you can blame it fully on us.
I'm not required to put any of it out. It's a courtesy at this point,
Yeah.
and, we warned the meeting appropriately with a full description of the agenda, so we've met the legal obligation. So whenever you tell me you've got numbers that you are prepared for the moment to stand on, then that's when we do it, okay? So that's the first thing, and then the second is, I think we're talking about 3 documents from this group. One is the new budget that we're asking the council to approve. I need a copy of that. Then we need a copy of this rate calculation, however you all want to present
So
it.
that is gonna be in the proposal.
Okay, it's gonna be built into the
It's gonna
proposal.
be built into that.
Beautiful, so
proposal.
it's just two documents. It's a budget
Yep,
and the proposal.
correct.
And you'll give me both of those sometime tomorrow?
Well, the budget doesn't change, so you should have that, but I can resend it.
If
to
you would send me the final, and write in the subject line, final version
I was gonna ask
for
the
distribution
question,
or
how do you
something, Paul,
want
just
it?
to make sure I don't do the wrong one. Okay? Go ahead,
I
Carl.
was gonna ask you, how do you want it listed, because I know, understand that anything that touches this table becomes public, you want it listed as draft, so it's not confused.
Proposed, that's a good question. I can retitle it.
With a date.
I'll retitle it appropriately for for the agenda packet.
So you want it in Word format then, because I had sent it around in PDF.
Yeah,
Yep, that'd be great. Send it to me in Word, I'll title it appropriately, and I will download it as a PDF.
yeah.
Okay? And, okay, so, so if you can get me those sometime tomorrow, I'll distribute them. And the last thing on my mind is, I've invited Dave Rue to join us with the thought that we might just walk him through the document itself that you've created tonight to make sure there are nothing, that he doesn't see anything in that document that raises any red flags for him. And he's prepared to come on anytime. I told him it would be about 6 o'clock. So what I was hoping is at that point we could just put the document up on the screen, bring David into the call, and then have you all walk him through each of the points and see if he has anything that he's concerned about.
Okay, for the verbal part of the document, I imagine.
Yeah, so our list of recommendations.
Correct.
and yeah.
That's what I'm looking for, yeah. I'm not looking for him to get into the weeds about how you set the rates.
Yeah,
Although, yeah, honestly, what he said to me is that the council has a lot of latitude because we are the water commissioners. So he said, honestly, you know, if they're trying to be responsible, they're within the reasonable limits of the statute.
Okay, the other thing you need, and I'll write it up, is you need a draft ordinance. Because what Paul has, you need to have it in the document for the council to approve. Correct?
So we're looking for an ordinance
Are
change.
you talking about the water shutoffs and all that? Or are you talking about anything?
We're talking about everything, and we gotta talk about the rest at this point, what one wants to do with some of them or not.
Can we put the document up online or up on the screen and, because the ordinance recommendations are in that document, right? Can we just talk about them for a minute?
Not in any of the documents we have right now. I think the best is.
Well, there are things, there are recommendations that might need to be written into an ordinance, but I don't.
correct. There are recommendations that may need to be written into
Yeah.
an ordinance, but it is not written as anything.
And this has to be done this time?
No.
That's
Okay,
all-
then I'm not worried about it.
It should be done soon.
Okay, then, but this week,
I think if you're going to do this, we have to affect everything, because there's there are things that aren't on here, like the vacant and stuff like that. So we need to plug in all of those for the council.
No, so those are on the proposal. So
You've got a couple that are missing. Let me
which ones are
see.
missing?
are you in, which document are you in right now?
I'm in one you don't see.
Okay.
Let me see if I'm hooked to, I am hooked, so let's see if I can.
I thought the only thing I was missing was labor, equipment rates.
Let me just see.
On the water side, they're on the sewer side in this document.
Yeah.
Labor is, but not equipment.
Wait, you have labor in there? I didn't see
Yeah,
labor.
labor is on the sewer side, not the water side. There's no equipment fee on either.
Right, because we weren't gonna rate, I mean,
I mean, that's not really for, the
For-
equipment rate isn't for
right,
us to
right.
determine, that's the, value of the machine, the appreciation, whether that includes labor to operate anything.
right.
Okay, what is the email address?
I
City
feel like
rock
that's
manager.
a department head
At Newport, Vermont.
question to answer.
So there's actually 2 lines on the sewer I could get rid of. But I thought everything else was accounted for. If we go to the rate sheet.
get this, you want to open the one that says, this one too. It's a parentheses too.
Yeah, the prior water one for rates effective beginning November 1 of '24 does not have anything for either labor or equipment.
Right, it was, they only put that under the sewer side of things.
There's a separate section called service fees that appears to apply to both.
Yeah.
No, it's one Excel
And it
spreadsheet.
includes
that you
labor,
want
labor
to
after
open it.
hours,
This
and then an
one too is the one that
itemization
you
for
want.
different kinds of equipment.
Right.
We don't have, I don't think, what is it, outside. And we need to make some, sort of decisions, if we want to recommend things.
So the ones that are listed,
Pool is one, non-metered swimming
it's on
pool.
there.
It is? Good. Tells you how much I've been looking.
I love how deep you all are.
One of my suggestions, I've got a few things once we get that big fence, okay. All right, let me see if I can explain this logically.
Okay.
And I think everybody who knows me knows that they can't follow what I try to explain. I'm very good at confusing. So what we've got here is the November rates, and you can see one of the later adjustments, that's an adjustment. These are the things that we corrected from last night. This is the change with the 36. It says 136, but it's 36%. This is what the effect is compared to what we were getting before, so we could figure out how much money we're getting.
So that's net difference.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I didn't total
Sure.
the old one because the old one has some quirks, particularly down in sewer.
Yeah.
I did double check that, my figures were correct. So what we've got is we've got to make sure that we have got, city use is 8 meters that are not currently being billed to those 8 departments. Sewer treatment plant is being billed. And that's something that we can hopefully address at some point. It's 52,000 gallons. So the industrial commercial is a rate that is the same as the non-metered, the non-resident water rate. So you can see some of these things repeating. But we have got, there's a commercial base. One of them is off whack unless I decide to
Industrial
correct it.
commercial is the second one from the top.
Okay,
139.
yeah. 139.33, 139.33, and let's see. And one of the things is, somewhat of a suggestion is we can potentially round some of these off to bill, resident water at I don't think it's 110.02 anymore, but maybe. I've been playing with the sewer so long, I guess it must be.
Yeah,
In 110,
Yeah, and do we want to have it that way, or do we want to just do it 110 and just get it close, do what they did before, sort of rounding the things a little bit? As long as we've got swimming pool, do we have seasonal water on your rate? And the ledges, and those two have always been different rates.
non-meter swimming pool, water purchase, connected outside city boundaries.
So, let me just make a suggestion.
Yeah.
This is way deeper than even the council is gonna need to go, right? So, I feel confident, given the people around this table, that y'all have done the most detailed look we can at this.
Yeah.
And really, the question in my mind is just, how do we interpret the increase
Right.
for the council to know what they're voting on?
Yeah.
And for the public to understand, when that becomes a news story, for the public not to be totally befuddled by what we've done. That's what matters to me, right?
Yeah.
And the second thing that matters to me is I'm still not clear why we need to deliberate about ordinance changes at this meeting.
We don't.
We
We
don't,
don't.
you just have to have it written as an ordinance. for the council to pass it.
At some point.
Well, it's really
No.
just amending the schedule next to the ordinance. Because I just looked at the ordinances and they both contemplate that you adopt fee schedules, which are essentially
I
rate
see.
sheets.
So the ordinance becomes, the language of the ordinance becomes the action of the council. Is that right? To raise the rates?
Well,
According to the budget, at least.
It really is just amending the rate schedule.
yeah, so what we need to do, I call it an ordinance because it is adopted. But I think what we need, and it's water sewer ordinance, schedule of rates and fees. And we need to get that written out for the council to approve this rate increase.
It needs to look and format
Yeah.
like this, basically.
That's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
I will do for you, we'll
Thank
do
you.
that. Yeah.
And how is that document titled that you have in your hand right there, John?
This one is the last one. The caption is Water and Sewer Rates and Fees enacted by the Water Commissioners on the 28th day of October 2024. And under that, the second caption, rates to be effective with the period beginning November 1 of 24.
Okay.
And then the categories are, there's a water rates category, a water allocation fee category, and then there's a similar document for sewer, which is a separate document that covers sewer. And then that one also includes a separate category called service fees, which is the labor part that was alluded to earlier. And that includes another separate category called equipment. And then it covers allocation fees and so forth. But they're both set up.
All right, so two things about this. One, I don't see a need for the word ordinance anywhere here. And if it just threw me off for the
Okay.
last 20 minutes,
Yeah.
I suspect it will throw other people off, because what I assume when I hear the word ordinance is we're changing something related to the charter or a statute or something else somewhere.
Okay,
And that's not what we're doing.
Yeah.
Right? What we're doing, what we're asking council to do is to approve a new rate sheet,
Yeah.
which we will attach to the minutes, so it will be obvious. So that leads me to my second question, which is, is it your thinking that you'll be able to create a document that looks like this? And
Yes.
and therefore, do we need, we can ask Dave Rue tonight whether we need his final approval of this, but I don't think we do.
No, we
Because all
don't.
you're really doing is pulling this part of the
Exactly.
recommendation
Yeah.
out
So-
and plugging it into this
And,
format.
and one thing might be nice is to ask Tom, who's in the back of the room, if any of the fees should be changed at this point. Because I know that Paul at least brought up the connection fee is super, super
Right.
low. And whether there's anything there that really should be adjusted at this point, because we don't know when a new rate increase will come.
Right, and that's really.
This is a good question, actually, for one thing, Tom, because we have some fees coming up related to the changeover with the users up on the Derby, Newport boundary, right? So we're gonna get at least a dozen of them or something like that.
No, it's 5.
It's only 5.
Just 5 Derby residents. The others currently are in the city. So there's 5 Derby.
So the question that Jennifer's asking, I think, and we're asking your opinion about, is are those all commercial?
Yes.
All 5 of those are commercial. Does it,
Well, there's one apartment.
Non-resident water meter is basically a non-resident water meter usage is exact same as the residential water. It's always been that way. That's something you could change. And I think it's the same on anything that is metered is one rate. So whether you're metered within the city or outside of the city, you pay the metered rate.
so
And
I guess
don't know
unless you
whether-
can make a compelling case,
I wouldn't touch it.
I was gonna say, I don't recommend that we play with this.
We do have people outside the city that we supply water to, so.
Yeah, and the ones that are not metered, there's one who's getting sort of slammed, basically is paying over $800 a quarter for their water or sewer. I
Right,
can't
because
remember.
connected outside of the city boundary,
Yeah,
it was 139 and it's gonna go up to 189.
yeah, and there's
Water.
one
And that's
other,
water.
And the sewer in November connected
Yeah.
outside the city was 801.74.
So,
yeah,
right.
and that adjusted
And
is
that's-
gonna be 875 because that was not, dropped down. One of the things I think that should be
So
done
that benefits that.
is you've got, I don't understand why we've got a industrial or commercial rate, because a lot of that is picking up potentially apartments. Right now, according to all these figures, we have 16 people in there, or 16, bills that go out in the category of unneeded commercial industrial. And so my feeling is, I think we should just get rid of it sort of as a separate category and lump it in with everybody else, because it's something like, I don't know, is it $10 more or something for commercial, industrial, commercial, non-metered? It just is really strange, and I might have adjusted it just because I so hate it.
But again, that's something that we can change.
Right, that's
too.
not something we
Yeah.
need to think about between now and Wednesday,
Yeah,
right?
except making it easier for downstairs, but, they should be okay once they plug the rates in.
Okay.
So the sewer rate sheet includes those labor and equipment categories, and if we're not going to change any of those parts of the rate sheet, the information in the old one should just be carried forward.
Yeah.
Just to make it clear that they still
Yeah,
are effective.
Well, yeah, I mean, because some of the ones,
Otherwise, if you repeal the old rate sheet, you're repealing all of those other fees that you're not changing.
I mean, some of the ones that jumped out to me were, where is it? The turn on and turn off, after hours, turn on and turn off, I mean, we're only getting $67, I mean,
Which doesn't cover the
do
70.
what do the guys get,
Well-
a 2-hour minimum?
Well, hold on, that's the fee, that's not the labor fee. That's just the flat fee, right?
Are they
You get
getting charged labor too, on top of that?
No,
Oh, they would, okay, so then it doesn't cover like an
I don't think
overtime.
they are.
It doesn't cover an
I'd have
overtime
to
hour
check
then.
with Stacy on that one.
Right.
So that's a practice that we should do, is there should be,
Fee
at the
plus the
minimum, the overtime hourly rate, and then if there's a fee, a flat fee, then that would be in addition. I mean, I can't imagine that's a particularly common request, an after-hour water shop, unless it's an emergency,
Yeah,
yeah.
we'd make them wait till morning.
Otherwise-
Unless it's an emergency,
Yeah.
somebody,
Basement's flooded.
Yeah.
So like those are things that is like such low hang or such bottom of the barrel things at the moment that we could talk about over the next 2 months and
That's
come
right.
back with it.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, we just need to make sure we don't
That it's-
omit any of that in the new rate sheet.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to implicitly repeal all of those.
Yes, that's right.
So do we have a Word document version of the 2024-25 rate chart? Like with the seal and everything on it? Like how are we gonna throw that on without?
So,
But it doesn't necessarily need that. I mean, these are copies of the actual signed ones.
yeah.
Okay, because this one looks different. The May one's got the seal and all the header and ledger and all that.
Yeah,
I can add that. If
I don't really care.
you
I
all
just
give me a Word document,
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
that's the
easy.
final version, I can just throw the city logo on it.
yeah. I have no idea in whose word processor this would be located,
It's easy
What-
enough.
what's
to
the
Jonathan
date
do.
on it?
Collaborators.
probably.
What's the date on it?
Well, one is, they're October 28 of 24,
Yeah, and then April
See if I can find it.
24.
yeah. But they could
I
be,
might even have an old one from when they didn't adopt the rates. Honestly, I don't think we have to go down this road because I highly believe now that I remember, I have the old ordinance because I proofed it. And then
Is that
spoke-
from June 2016?
No, not the June 2016, the one that didn't go through that Laura proposed. I approved it and then argued with her and then spoke against it at the council meeting.
21, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so, because I've got stuff in here for 21.
Yeah.
So,
So,
you know, this is minuscule. It's, you know, a professional typist could do it in, you know, 10 minutes, which means it's an hour and a half for me, but, you know, it's perfectly fine. We will check with Jim and do that. We'll just make sure everything that is on what was the November one is on there.
Yeah.
Okay, and the wording agrees, and we'll get it out for people to prove before, you know, Wednesday's council meeting. Obviously, because they need the handouts.
Yeah, I mean, do you need me to, so I know Stacy has to do payroll tomorrow, so.
I wouldn't worry about it. I can do it. I've got absolutely totally nothing better to do.
She has an hour and a half.
Take that offer. Okay, so are we ready to invite Dave Rue into this conversation? And I think all we're doing is putting up the document. In fact, can somebody send me whatever that most recent copy is of the recommendations document to city.manager, and I'll put it up on the screen.
Paul, that would be you
Yeah,
approving it?
no, I was working on rates.
Busted.
Have you ever
We
thought of
caught you
getting
playing
on that?
video games on your cell phone.
Just can't help it.
So, what was it?
I need you to send me the most recent version
But to,
to city.manager at newportvermont.org.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna text Dave and invite him to come on in.
I guess we,
There.
Probably just got 3 emails, right?
I got one from you, Carl. Is that it? That's what we're looking
I
at?
believe it's the
Yeah.
draft, right?
should have one for me too.
I didn't bond it.
There it is. All right. Well, I'll take 2 out of 3. That's great.
Right. 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
As they say. Okay, that's what we're looking at. And then I can do a share over here.
Are we just getting David's blessing?
Sorry?
Are we just getting David's blessing? Do we have
Yes,
explicit?
all we're doing
Okay.
is reviewing this with him to
Okay.
see if there's anything that he's concerned about, because we
Yeah.
don't have.
That's fair.
Just a good old legal review, huh?
I hate it when
So
it
I
does
think
this.
I have all that now.
Let's do it a different way.
So I can take this, go back into this Word document.
Okay, that looks better. So, can you folks walk him through this when we, I'm gonna move there, if I go here, then I can move it, okay.
So. Alright, I need projected revenue.
Okay, he says he'll be here in a couple of minutes, so. I will be here, Jennifer, for meetings from 10 to noon tomorrow,
Okay.
and available to be interrupted. I'm in a department heads meeting.
Oh, I wouldn't
So I
interrupt you
can-
with the department.
I was gonna say you do.
I'm gonna be anxious to get this stuff up, so whenever you've got it, I'll take it. And I think I've got the rest of the packet ready to go.
Random.
Yeah.
So Jennifer, you're writing this?
I should be able to, yeah.
I was gonna, because I can. doesn't matter to me. Because I've got the proposal, I mean,
I wouldn't worry, I have, we can revamp it. I have half
so
of
you've
it.
got the old one.
Yeah.
I've got, that's the 2016, I need to, there's the new one, okay, yeah. The new one that didn't go in from 2022. Seemed to have been 2022, Pam, not 2021. My, how time flies. Yeah, so it's got, Tom, if you need any upgrades on any of that equipment, it's all in here.
Hey, John, when he gets on, could you give him just kind of an overview of where we are in the process to kind of situate him?
I think so.
And then we can have Paul and
Yeah.
the others walk him through the line-by-line recommendations.
All right, so with that 27, we're still it's only 10,000 shy from what the proposed budget is.
Okay,
So,
I'm hoping there's not.
but we're 5,000 over on what the proposed water is. I mean,
One of the things is we've got some of the odd ones that aren't factored in, but it's not gonna come up to 10,000,
right.
you know.
Hey, Dave, welcome.
Hi,
Hi.
can you hear me okay?
We hear you fine, and you can hear us?
Yes, at least
Great.
you, Rick.
All right. So we've got a few folks among the community residents who have been extremely helpful in this process, and we've got folks sitting around the table who have been working hard for 6 weeks almost now. And so John's going to give you, John Manette, member of our council, who I think you've met before, I'm not sure.
Not personally. I've spoken with Dave, but I don't think I've ever met in person.
So John's going to give you a quick overview to locate us, kind of where we are on the process. And then all we want to do is go over the recommendations that the task force is planning to make to council for its considerations on Wednesday night, and make sure you don't see red flags we should be paying attention to.
Okay.
Okay. So process-wise, we've looked at budgets for the last several years. We've made a couple of small modifications in the proposed expense budgets for the upcoming years for both the water fund and the sewer fund. You'll see those in the overview document that we'll run through in a minute. And so what we're doing is trying to determine rate adjustments such that income for the upcoming fiscal year will be sufficient to cover expenses. And so that's where most of our focus has been. Our immediate task is to put the upcoming fiscal year water sewer budgets on essentially a break-even basis. We have not started addressing what we consider phase 2 recommendations or tasks, and there's a whole series of those that you'll see in the document on the screen as Paul and Jennifer go through it. One of the issues we need to deal with in phase 2 is addressing the accumulated deficit from past fiscal years. And we have a series of other recommendations as to phase 2 tasks. But I think our immediate concern basically boils down to making sure we're not going off the charts here on phase 1 somewhere.
Right, so just so you know, Dave, what we're thinking in terms of a recommendation on, or an agenda on Wednesday night, is that the council will first be asked to take action on the proposed water and sewer budget, which has been manipulated. It's not the same as it was, as the version that was presented as a proposed budget in the annual report, because this team has tried to tighten the numbers. So the council will look at the numbers vote on that budget and then move on to a list of recommendations that will include rate adjustments.
So you're gonna have you'll establish a base rate to fund the budgeted expenses and then do add-ons for other things like maintenance costs, let's say reserves, capital expenses, that sort of thing.
That's the long-term goal.
Yeah, this budget, there were a number of things that the budget that the council will be asked to vote on includes. One thing it did was it removed money that had been proposed to set aside for significant kind of specific capital expenditures. For instance, the Vector truck is the example we keep coming back to. And since we're in a cash flow challenge, we're saying we're going to take that out for now and then deal with the question of how we're going to manage that as we deal with the rest of the financial situation. So that $140,000 that we had written into that budget has come out of it. And another major change in the budget is that there was money in the sewer budget for water meters that have been removed and put only on the water budget side. And a third item, what was the third item?
Adding a 5% contribution to a capital reserve fund.
So we have not tried to propose the full 15% that we're allowed to propose because we're so cost conscious and aware of sticker shock at this point. So those are there anything other than those three big things?
The other point relating to capital reserve is that at the present time, we're not proposing a specific designation for the funds.
Right.
Yes, Dave, so you and I talked about the fact that the council can, as water commissioners, approve a budget, and we'll need to have a second conversation at some point in the future about the appropriate fund to make sure those funds are now set aside in.
Okay.
Okay? So I think that brings you up to date. That's what gets us to the budget, and then assuming we've passed that budget, we'll have Paul, maybe can you start us out on the recommendations piece?
Yep, I just have one question before, and that is that if we're looking at the enabling statutes, am I correct that technically we're acting as water commissioners for water, but language-wise, we have to act as sewer commissioners for the other? That's my understanding. That
On Wednesday night, you are acting as water commissioners for the water, and then what do you mean sewer commissioners for removing the metered expense item or something?
No, because we're also adjusting the sewer rates based upon the adjusted sewer budget. In other words, we're looking at the rate structure for both. And
Yeah, so it'll be both.
yeah, so it looks to me like they're two separate funds, so we essentially have to do water by itself and then sewer by itself, correct?
Yes. You could probably combine them if you wanted to, but it's cleaner probably to keep them separate.
Okay.
Only because each budget is technically different, and in one sense you're acting under the charter as water commissioners, and there's no similar provision in the charter for sewer, so you just go under general law for sewer, which is Title 10 or Chapter 101 of Title 24.
What about the service fees? They've been attached to the sewer part, but is that appropriate? Do they tie over to the water part?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the start of your question.
We have the water fees, we have the sewer fees, and on the sheet that has just the sewer rate fees, it has the servicing fees for any of the servicing, which would do, I would imagine, for both water and sewer.
Yeah, so one, we're not touching them, so there's not any need to,
There's
But
no
if-
change.
There's no
If there
change.
is a
and
change,
separate, we don't really know, just because it's on the same page does not mean it's only affiliated with sewer. So unless there's some other precedent set where that service fee only applies for people requesting sewer services, that is just a departmental charge for whatever you hire them to do.
as long as that's clear.
I don't know if it's clear, but that's
Yeah.
what, you could interpret it as
Right.
an entirely different section of this document.
And as long as we make it clear on the next one.
Yeah.
Or you just listed on a separate sheet, service fees
Sure.
attributable to both water and sewer departments.
Which we might want to just do, even though we're not changing the numbers. If we have the liberty to do that with this new draft for Wednesday, we might as well just enter
It's
20 times.
another sheet of paper, but it cleans it up and makes it clear that it applies to both.
I think it's needed, yeah.
Paul, does all of that work for you? Because you're, or no, which one of you, I can't remember, where did we end up? Jennifer's.
So,
Don't
yeah,
worry, it's the same thing, don't worry about
Okay,
that.
yeah. So if we can jump into the recommendation
yeah,
document.
so I guess if you go to, the third page, Rick,
Yeah,
of that document. The first two recommendations are for what the new rates would look like. The third recommendation,
so hold on, just so you can see it, Dave, so I don't run by it, right? So on page 2, we begin with recommendations for quarterly water, and second recommendation is the rates that we'll set for sewer. And those numbers will change a little bit still before we're done, we're not quite there. And now we're on to item 3, go ahead, Paul.
so our first recommendation will be to the city, that city council officials assign relative staff to develop an accurate water account. And then those numbers you see are the general ledger numbers for revenue, as well as the same for the sewer account. What we discovered was that those numbers were merely a cut and paste of what the expenses were. There was never a calculation done on how much money was going to be brought in from the existing rate structure. So that needs to be addressed by city staff. The next recommendation was to fast track the remaining meter installations. It's going to be hard with the budget we have to work with, but we need it to accurately assess the status and the costs associated with our system. Next was to recommend city council officials assign staff to collaborate with the task force to simplify the water and sewer budget. The budget right now is laid out, well, it's not really laid out. You've got employee cost mixed in with equipment cost, and it's hard to determine what is a benefit or what's a salary compared to what is an actual capital improvement or a capital expenditure, or any of your fixed cost.
And if I could just say a word there before we go on. The language we want there is gonna, I think we should include another action tomorrow night that the Financial Reporting and Fiscal Practices Committee is gonna put, is to contract with NEMRIC
Yeah.
for financial systems consultancy. So they're actually the ones who are gonna help us to clean this up, I suspect. So we'll add that language into that one.
Okay.
Okay?
The other next recommendation was based on budget again, making sure that all improvements versus expenditures are listed appropriately and assigned appropriately. This next one is probably the one that involves you the most. we're recommending that the council pass an ordinance to begin the shut off of water services. We threw out 90 days overdue. And then we also need something in the ordinance to address entities that will not let us in to work on meters. Whether that's a shut off, whether it's liens, whether it's that's something that needs to be worked on. But there are some people with 5-digit past due balances that owe the city and are not cooperating. So that's a big one. And then the last one.
So can we pause
Yes.
there and discuss these two?
Yep.
First, under 6, I want to reiterate that the statute requires that water charges go to water expenses, and then by implication, sewer charges go to sewer expenses. They shouldn't be commingled.
Yep.
And then, secondly, I would need to double check, but I believe that you don't need a separate ordinance to begin using the uniform disconnection procedure under 24 VSA Chapter 129. I think you are authorized to use that already. The city has a practice of using the tax sale process instead of disconnection to get bills paid. It is, from our perspective, I guess 6 on one, half dozen on the other, which way you go. When you do start implementing water sewer disconnects, however, there's a number of special rules that apply, particularly to rental buildings and providing tenants opportunities to pay if their landlord won't, and things like that. Also, just to highlight that disconnection process is statutory and prescribed, so you need to follow that exactly and to the T, including using the language that Chapter 129 requires.
So
In disconnect.
it doesn't sound like it would need an ordinance, it would just need a policy.
Well,
Yeah, or even a motion is all that's probably needed because the statute is so detailed. I mean, it prescribes charges for reconnection and everything else.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
it might just be we are going to shift gears a little bit and start going through the disconnection process in addition to the tax sale process as needed. We might want to consider when to use one over the other and ensure people are being treated equally and fairly. That's something I will think about, but yeah, maybe a motion, maybe a policy, just along those lines, but I don't think we're going to need to go through the detail or the procedural requirements for an ordinance.
yeah, both our current water and sewer ordinances do cross-reference the uniform disconnection procedure. And so I think the question really may be to be sure that, or to have a review done that our, concerning the question whether the current ordinances are in fact consistent with the uniform disconnection procedure. In other words, is there anything that needs to be amended to bring us completely into line with that process? I think that's probably the real question, because we do have some cross-referencing now.
I think as I listen to the conversation, I would prefer to use language in number 7 that encourages the council to consider the matters related to enforcement of whatever that one is. and let the council come back to a deeper and more thoughtful conversation, so we don't make a fast decision that we regret in terms of what a policy should be.
We recommend to you, you fine tune what it should look like.
Yeah, all you're saying is, this is a problem, and the council is gonna do some looking at
Needs to
this.
work.
Right.
Maybe by coming back to you,
Yeah,
we have the following questions.
yeah, I think Ray's right. Something like recommend that the city council conduct a review of collection of past due accounts, and including but not limited to shut-offs and other methods.
Beautiful.
There we go.
Perfect.
Yeah, except I missed
Saved
that.
about 5 lines.
Can you say that one more time for us, Dave?
Now let me try to do it again. Recommend that city council evaluate methods to collect past due water and sewer accounts, including possible shut-offs and tax sale process,
Got it.
something like that. Should do it.
We'll go back to the video for the wording you said
Right,
first.
right.
I think you want me to say it again, Rick?
No, I got it.
Yeah, we're good.
Cool.
All right. And then the last one is just recommendations to the council to have us keep reviewing stuff.
Moving into phase 2.
Everything. Yeah.
Right. Because there's a lot we have not even touched, just trying to get the budget balanced. So that's it in a nutshell.
In letter E, do we need to spell out Village of Derby or
Oh,
Derby
yes.
Town?
It should say Village of Derby Center.
Center.
That's what I thought.
It
Okay.
does now.
Okay, thank you. I think that's it. So Dave, these are mostly, other than the rate adjustment, the budget itself and the rate adjustments that are being proposed, these come off as simply, these are the things we think you should be looking at, council, and it's really advice to the council to kind of keep these things in front of them. So I don't see anything in here that needs particular wording or references. Do you?
No. No, the only thing that comes to mind are a couple special projects that are historic in nature that some of them are not, one of them in particular is not complete, and that's gonna require, it's where the city has paid for infrastructure up front and is going to eventually bill the residents in a defined area to pay back those costs. And, I would just say it's important for the city, to finish the projects and then start collecting as soon as practicable.
And so that's something I guess you and Tom and I can try and make a list of to make sure that we're on top of it.
Yeah, I think there's only one, right now.
Okay.
What about handling the ode to the city? Are we clear on?
No, we're not. We're not gonna make any you're talking about the audit line that says
Yeah,
due to other?
just thought if we get the return.
Yeah, no, Dave and I are in the middle of a much deeper conversation about how we're gonna manage the cash flow / deficit, the cumulative deficit that's been created. So we'll take that on sometime soon. We're gonna have to take it on. In fact, we've got another meeting on Thursday about that, so.
Yeah, it's gonna be in the next week or so.
Is that leading to
I
another?
think that's all I have.
All right, Lori, do you have a quick question before we go?
I do, and it's about the budget thing, because I heard something in this conversation and I'm just trying to make sure. So, according to the charter, in section 26, it's labeled water system, and that to me is the whole of the water system. But it was mentioned that you act as water commissioners, but we're doing a water budget and a sewer budget. So are we water commissioners and sewer commissioners?
Yes, that's where we were a
It's,
few minutes ago.
okay, I just heard it. And I started
We're gonna
reading
act
it,
as
just-
water commissioners as per the charter, and sewer commissioners as per some general statute that David's got the number on.
Okay.
Correct. So, this is the city council that meets as the water commissioners
Right, that's right, yeah.
and for commissioners.
For clarity,
I just didn't want someone to come up after and go, the city
No,
didn't
we
vote
got it.
on the sewer budget.
We got it.
Okay.
for
Carl?
clarity, when the
Yeah,
charter,
if you want to look at the general statute for sewer rates, it's 24 VSA 3616.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Carl.
And that's, chapter 10, there's a variety of different sewer statutes in Title 20, or chapters in Title 24. Some are older and some are more current, but generally we look to chapter, I think it's 95, let me just double check so I get this right. 95, 99, and 101. It's not the most easily laid out provisions, but they do work once you know where they are.
Okay, I think Carl has a question, and then we're going to try and wrap up.
it was to Lori's reference, when the charter originally was written, we didn't have sewer.
Correct.
At the time, and that's why the word is like that.
Right.
Well, and it also
Correct,
references
they got it.
very old documents.
Yeah. Well, section 3616 simply says that, in essence, that the city council sets the rates. And then in another section of it, it calls the council commissioners. So
Yeah.
effectively, the council are sewer commissioners as well as water commissioners.
Set the rate to bring the budget.
Okay, unless there are other questions for Mr. Rue, we're going to release him.
Thank you, David.
Thank you for your
Thanks.
time.
Really appreciate it,
you.
Dave. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Okay, y'all, so I think we're coming down the home stretch for our meeting tonight. So the next steps are that we're gonna make final changes and send me whatever the version is that I'm using, that I'm posting for the water and sewer budget. Right?
You have that budget.
You've sent it already.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't send it to the city.
That's fine. If it's on my other one, that's just fine.
Yes.
Yep. Okay, so I've got that, and then Jennifer, you're gonna reform you guys are gonna tinker with rates,
Yeah.
and once those are finally accomplished, you're gonna rewrite two things.
Right. So the proposal that we had, the draft one yesterday,
Yes,
is already rewritten.
okay,
We just need to confirm that the rate numbers, we need to, hopefully Patrick's gonna have time to double check our formulas and that stuff.
great. All right, and then we're gonna have a copy of the
I'll do the schedule, yeah.
schedule. And John's gonna help me keep straight on Wednesday night with what the motions need to be,
Okay.
hopefully.
And one thing before we get off of it, the service fees, those were not increased in November. So the last time they were increased was May of '24,
Okay,
just so you know. There was not one change that was instituted.
I suspect that will be incorporated into a much broader conversation
Yeah,
that we'll come back to.
but the problem is, we're gonna be, until we redo the rates again, or go through this again,
Yeah.
so it
Well,
just, yeah.
we're gonna be moving pretty quick on this. We're not gonna let any grass grow. So the phase 2 recommendations are gonna be coming back. They won't be accomplished obviously for this quarter, but we could easily be back here by summer with another set of recommendations.
Yeah.
It would be nice to see what the effect of our,
Well, that's kind of the point that Jim Johnson's been making for a year, which is we've tinkered with the rates, now let's sit back and see what happens. The problem is, in my judgment, we don't have the luxury. We have to do our best guess and then go up or down based on what we learn as we go along.
Kentucky windage.
Do you want, for your packet, do you want those comparables?
No.
Okay.
I think it kind of just confuses, as someone pointed out last night, I don't remember who it was, at the end of the day, we're pretty prescribed about how we're setting our rates. So I think, Patrick, just your ability to speak to where we are in the broader scheme of things, if it comes up on Wednesday night, would be fabulous.
So Jennifer, when you do, this for the council,
Yeah,
can we clear up the language
yeah, we'll send it to you, yeah,
so that people actually?
yeah.
You mean like the fixed rate of this per gallon plus a variable charge
Right,
of this?
right, yeah.
Maybe a
It's-
little
it's-
bit more
it's a base-
intelligible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You are paying a base rate and you pay this much per gallon up to 13.5 and you pay this much per gallon over 13.
I would appreciate that.
I think we all would.
yeah.
Okay. Anything else we need to do tonight? We're gonna make
Dinner.
it. We're gonna make it. This is amazing, y'all.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
I don't think so. I think we've sorted out the immediate from the longer term.
Do we need to go over a list of data and information that we still need to obtain for phase 2, or is that for later?
Let's buy ourselves a little break here.
Okay.
Can I recommend, do we have a meeting set up?
I was just gonna ask if we wanna set a next meeting. Y'all can
Oh.
decide how you'd like to do that.
I'll try not to be late this time.
So after Wednesday night, when would this group like to meet again?
Next Christmas.
Using the word like in a very loose fashion.
I would say the following week. And,
Yeah,
you know,
let's give ourselves a week and a half to,
I was gonna say, the Thursday night's working for everybody.
let's just take a look here, shall we?
Yeah.
So we
Generally.
would be
Is
into,
that mine, you know?
John's the one who has the conflict.
so the
I think.
8th
Yeah.
would be our next meeting. After Wednesday, the 8th would be our meeting. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm
Thursday, the
available
8th or 7th. Is it the 7th or 8th?
Thursday, the 8th.
All right, Thursday.
Oh, we're over here. Get the
So,
right month. but we-
I'm unavailable that night, but I was also gonna say that I'm gonna be a little more, a little less invested going forward. I'll make appearances as requested or when I can. So I don't think we should schedule around me. So if you all want the regular slot we had been using, it would be 6:30 the evening of May 8th.
I might be a little late, but I thought my meeting was in the morning, which it might be, and I didn't move it.
And we're doing that for 7?
No, 6:30.
Oh, 6:30.
6:30, right? Unless you wanna change it to earlier, or,
I mean,
I have trouble getting here at 5, so.
so 6:30.
6:30 works for me.
So 6:30 on May 8th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can warn that so that it's a repeating meeting, although I know last Thursdays don't work for you, John, right? Until 7:30.
Yeah, like May 22nd, I couldn't do it for 6:30.
You might wanna fire just this one off and then
Okay,
see
let's
how
just do
our
the 8th
dress-
and then make a
Yeah,
decision.
because-
how we dress up.
With summer and stuff, I think everybody's weeks are gonna get a little.
That's right. And, you know, honestly, I'm not assuming that this is gonna happen every single week. So we've gotten through the really hard press, and now we've got a little room to breathe. As long as we keep on working steady, we're fine.
Don't lose the momentum.
Right.
Yeah.
I might be a little late.
Okay.
I have a meeting down the street that is supposed to get over at 6:30.
I'll do some thinking about how we get you all online if I can't be here. I'll try and figure that out.
And I that, what we
virtual.
handed out yesterday, I retitled that. It's now phase 1 of 2 proposal, for temporary rate increase with additional recommendations.
Excellent.
I don't mean to discredit John over here, but should we include council? Are you official council? Is that implying something that shouldn't on this little box of task force members?
I mean, as of today, I am.
He's
you are.
council member until he's not.
Yeah,
Right.
Right.
and
So
he'll be.
Okay,
till
so
the
not
end of the
legal
week.
council.
No, city
Okay,
council.
okay.
No, city
okay,
council with a
okay,
C,
okay.
not legal council
I see.
with an S.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right.
Thank you.
We could make him an older person, which really he is.
An older
If you
person?
could-
Older.
Older person.
Altar
Okay.
boy
All
at
right.
city council.
Disregard
I
it.
think we've devolved here. It's time to call the meeting, John.
Okay, it's getting way out of hand.
Yeah, agreed.
All right.
Okay.
So May 8th, and we'll go from there.
Thanks for all your work,
All
everybody.
right, guys. Ready? Right.
Great.
So, Jennifer and Paul, Is tomorrow evening too late for me to go over things? Cause
I don't think so.
I'm
No, we'll,
Booked all day
we'll do some proof on our own.
Right.
And we'll try to get us, if, Paul, do you have some time now?
Sure.
Okay. We'll sit here and do potentially some of it.